Welcome back to Punch-Ons, the Aussie Punters UFC channel with the #1 best prediction rate on YouTube. For last weekend anyway. This is going to be my full card predictions for UFC 320 Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. That's right, boys. We've got our first pay-per-view card, and this one is absolutely stacked. I cannot wait for this one. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. It does not take much at all, and it does help the channel out a lot. Hit the subscribe button too, so you never miss out on another Punch-Ons predictions masterclass like we're about to have in this video. I've put a lot of thought into this card. We're looking to back up our huge week of predictions from last week with another punting masterclass for UFC 320. I'm feeling a big main event pick as well. I think the curse is done here. The locks of the week have been fire. We haven't cracked a big dog of the week last week with Cam Rouston, and I reckon I've got some juicy multis for you this week at the end of the video, so make sure you're sticking around for that. UFC 320 is a very solid pay-per-view card. We've got Poatan looking for revenge against Big Ank in their do-or-die rematch. We've got Merab versus Sandhagen in the co-main event. Jiří versus Khalil as the feature fight. What a banger that one's going to be. And there's a whole bunch of heavy-handed big boppers throughout this card, including Joe Pyfer, Ateba Gautier, Josh Emmett, and many more. I'm giving this card a solid 8.5 out of 10, just in terms of stackness and hype and excitement value. This is the biggest card we've predicted yet on the channel, so you best believe that I'll put my work in. I've done my tape study, and we're going to have a big week on the predictions this week. Without further ado, let's move straight into the main course, what you're all here for. Let's predict this stacked UFC 320 card, headlined by Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. Let's punch on. Without further ado, here are the first ever Punch-Ons pay-per-view predictions. Opening up the card, we have Veronica Hardy versus Brogan Walker. Women's flyweight, this one is. So Brogan Walker has lost 4 of her last 5. She's had a couple of good opponents that she lost to, like Erin Blanchfield and Yasmin Lucindo. But she also got TKO'd by Juliana Miller. Yikes. Veronica Hardy beat Juliana Miller. I'll go with the younger, better coached, more dynamic fighter in Hardy. She should get this one done by decision in a close back and forth affair where she maybe loses a round. 29-28 unanimous decision to Hardy, I reckon. I don't see either of these ladies finishing each other. Moving on to Ramiz Brahimaj versus Austin Vanderford at welterweight. Both of these guys are coming off a couple of wins. Brahimaj has 9 finishes by rear naked choke, with the back take being one of his specialties, and he's got a lot of rear nakeds in his career. He got Billy Ray Goff's back easily at the start of round 1 and dominated him. Got a crazy standing guillotine and slept Goff very easily in that fight. Goff is a can though. Brahimaj also slept Mickey Gall, and that was a cool looking finish, but he was getting tagged in that fight by Gall. Every time he's had to step up in competition, he's lost. He lost to Themba Gorimbo, Court McGee, Max Griffin. I don't know. These are steps up in competition, but not big ones. Against Themba Gorimbo, his grappling looked shite, and that was an all-grappling fight, so he just looked shite the whole fight. Ramiz Brahimaj, he fucked up 4 times trying to get Gorimbo down and lost the position, ended up on his back every single time. He actually got taken down cleanly a few times by Gorimbo in that fight too. Vanderford, on the other hand, has a bit of momentum and won his debut in the UFC over Nikolai Veretennikov by KO. He looked very strong in that fight, especially in the wrestling. Good slams and heavy top control. Once he got on top, he stayed there. Austin Vanderford almost got a nasty head and arm choke at the end of round 1. He looked really persistent and committed to his takedowns, and I really like this for Vanderford in this fight. Vanderford should have a physicality and a wrestling advantage, and that's what he'll look to use. I see this being a grappling domination by Vanderford, leading to a ground-based TKO or submission in round 2 or 3. I'm picking Austin Vanderford. Let's keep going. Here we have Punahele Soriano versus Nikolai Veretennikov at welterweight. So Nikolai Veretennikov was actually on the other side of Austin Vanderford's first UFC win. He got dominated in the wrestling in that fight, which, again, is another reason why I'm picking Vanderford. Veretennikov's only 3 losses in his recent pro career were to Michael Morales on the Contender Series, who he took to a decision, and he actually gave Morales some problems in that fight. He also lost to Danny Barlow, who people had a lot of hype on, and that was also a split decision in a close fight. And he lost to Austin Vanderford, who's just out-grappled him and used his physicality in that fight. Veretennikov's wrestling is a bit sus, and his striking is a bit slow and wild, and his fight IQ is not the best, but he does have a good chin and a big heart. His knees to the body and his body shots in general are really nasty too, and he proved that in his close win over Francisco Prado. He was also very sloppy in that fight. Just lots of random, poorly timed spinning shots, and I think he jumped the ghillie at one point too. I don't love Veretennikov's fight IQ at all, but he's a dog. You got to give him that. So Puna Soriano's coming off 2 wins himself. A quick, nasty right-hand KO over Uros Medic and a decision win over Miguel Baeza, who it seems is no longer with us here in the UFC. Soriano lost 4 of his previous 5 before that, though. He lost by a rear naked choke to Dustin the Big Oaf Stoltzfus. He got pieced up and TKO'd by Roman Kopylov, and there were also 2 decision losses in there to Nick Maximov and Brendan Allen. I think the only type of win Puna can get here is a KO, and I reckon Nikolai's chin's too good to let that happen. I think that maybe Puna looks good early. He lands some good shots on Nikolai, but he just eats him and keeps coming forward. Puna starts to gas out, and then we see Veretennikov just start piecing him up to the body, and eventually Puna goes down to a TKO, similar to the one in his Kopylov fight. I can't really pick Puna, who's had 2 wins in the last 3 years, and they were both over chumps. Nikolai is the hungrier, scarier, Middle Eastern kind of dude. Obviously, no, he's a Ukrainian, yeah, even better dude. And I reckon he probably eats pieces of shit like Puna Soriano for breakfast. So I'll go with Veretennikov by TKO. Let's move up the card. We've got Patchy Mix versus Jacob Wikłacz at Bantamweight. Look, Patchy's record looks a bit patchy now that he's had a loss to, Mario Batista in the UFC. I think he needs to start mixing it up a bit in patches throughout this fight. Wikłacz is a submission type of guy, and I reckon that's probably Patchy's wheelhouse. 13 wins by submission in his career, 7 in the first round. Kind of similar for Wikłacz, but his wins are all over a bunch of random Polish sausages. Patchy will be wanting to mix in the submission attempts in this fight for sure. Look, I can't fault Patchy too much for losing to Mario Batista. As much as we all hate to admit it, Mario is good and he will probably fight for the title soonish. Patchy did look very timid and one-dimensional in that fight, though. No tape really watched on Wikłacz, sorry guys. I'm going to back Patchy to have his redemption in this fight. I reckon it'll go to the ground early. Maybe Wikłacz takes Patchy down and we see Patchy use his crafty grappling or to reverse it, or maybe even get a sub from his back. I can see him throwing up a triangle or an armbar or something at the end of round 1 after maybe experiencing some adversity on the feet and then on the ground as well. Comeback win for Patchy. He'll be back in the mix at bantamweight. People forget, man, Patchy Mix beat Kyoji Horiguchi and Sergio Pettis at Bellator. Yeah, I'm not going to hold a decision loss to Mario Batista against him too much. This is a big step down for Patchy in competition, and I think he gets it done. I'll go Patchy Mix by submission in round 1. All right, next fight up the card is Macy Chiasson versus Yana Santos, formerly Kunitskaya, I believe, at women's bantamweight. Both these girls are old, but I feel like Yana Santos is far older in her career. They're kind of like UFC years are kind of like dog years. One year as an active UFC fighter is kind of worth about 3 years of your life. That's why it's so crazy that people like Vulcan that have been at the top of their game for so long. Look, the UFC is a tough game, even WMMA is, and despite Yana Santos coming off 2 wins and Macy coming off a loss to Ketlin Vieira, the 2 chicks that Yana beat were the old decrepit corpse of Misha Tate and Chelsea Chandler, who's possibly the worst female UFC fighter of all time. Chiasson ain't that good either, but she at least has some wins over some, relevant alive human beings in Mayra Bueno Silva and Norma Dumont. Somehow she beat her. Not a confident pick here. I don't really care. I'll go with the overwhelming majority of people who are picking Macy Chiasson by decision. That's the most likely outcome here. We'll go with Chiasson by boring 29-28 decision. All right, up to the first fight on the prelims. Daniel Santos versus Ju Sang Yu at featherweight. It's a bit of a strange one, this one. I think majority of people are picking Ju Sang Yu on Tapology, and most people are picking him by KO as well. But somehow Willy Cat Daniel Santos is a slight betting favourite. I think a lot of people are just guessing on this one. I'm not going to lie. For a while there, I actually thought Daniel Santos and Felipe dos Santos were the same guy. For a while back. We've got Ju Sang Yu, the undefeated guy here, but both have momentum. Santos just beat a Korean guy in Jong Yong Lee, so Ju Sang Yu's going to be out for revenge for his fallen countryman. Jong Yong Lee did drop him in round 1 of that fight, but Santos recovered well. Santos mixes it up well and his head movement's decent. I also like his gas tank and his activity, but he is content to stand and trade in the pocket, and this could be his undoing against a guy with heavy hands in Ju Sang Yu. Yu had an insane finish against Jeka Saragi in June. I like that he's had his debut and it went well, and he showed that he can take care of these low-level guys at featherweight. Zombie Junior, they're calling him because, he fights like TKZ apparently, and I think the fans are probably right to put some faith in this guy. There's a lot of low-level diversity higher Asian guys in the UFC who aren't that good at the moment, but I think we might have a good one here in Ju Sang Yu. I think Daniel Santos is also decent, but decent might not cut it in this one. Not when your style is kind of to trade in the phone booth and rely on your chin. I reckon Zombie Junior will get this one done by a nasty TKO too, maybe after a little bit more adversity than Jeka Saragi gave him. Give me Ju Sang Yu by TKO in round 2. Ju Sang Yu in round 2. Let's move up the card to Chris Gutiérrez versus Farid Basharat at bantamweight. Look, both of these guys are pretty boring fighters. Farid Basharat, he's the still undefeated Basharat, bro, but I feel as though his fraud check-in's not too far away either. I don't think Chris Gutiérrez will be the guy to do it, though. They'll both be happy to have a patient, safe striking match. It's going to be a snooze fest, this one. You don't have to be a genius to work that one out. There's just a certain type of fight. It's like a low-level flyweight or mostly bantamweight fight like this one it's kind of like a nighttime cold and flu for me. Just puts me to sleep ASAP. You know the one I'm talking about, like Pedro Muniz, Kyler Phillips, like Charles Jourdain sometimes type of fights. You know what I mean? I don't know. These guys are good, but, the guys I just mentioned, they're more fun fighters than Farid Basharat and Chris Gutiérrez. This Farid bloke couldn't bash a rat. Very short odds in this fight to go the distance, I reckon, and rightly so. I don't think either of these guys will be fighting for a finish. They'll just respect each other enough to take this to a close technical decision. I'll say, that Farid Basharat has, he's beaten absolutely nobody in his career, and Gutiérrez at least has wins over Quang Lee, Alatang Lee, and an old-ass Frankie Edgar. His 2 losses are to decent guys as well, Song Yadong and Pedro Munoz. I don't have too much to say about this one. Might take a shit while this one's on, to be honest. So I hope these boys prove me wrong. I'll go with the undefeated guy in Farid Basharat to work out Gutierrez's simple striking style and get a close decision win over him, 29-28. I think Basharat's loss in the UFC is not too far away, but I don't reckon Gutierrez has the style to do it to him in this one. Basharat by boring decision. Let's move on. Next fight up the card, we have Edmund Shahbazyan versus Andre Muniz at middleweight. Tough to pick this one because both guys have been really inconsistent in their careers. Edmund was a highly touted guy fighting out of Extreme Couture, and a lot of people thought he would be a future champ kind of back in the day. He's still young at 27, but he's a veteran UFC fighter as well. This is where his 13th or 14th fight in the UFC. Fuck, where is the time gone? I remember this guy getting fraud checked by Derek Brunson back in the day. That was ages ago. Losses to grappling situations is what has me kind of concerned for Edmund here. Brunson beat him on the ground. Hermansson smudged him on the ground. Imavov TKO'd him from a crucifix. Fluffy Hernandez pounded him out from the ground. And Meerschaert subbed him as well only a year ago. Look, Shahbazyan is good, and he will absolutely piece Muniz up on the feet if it stays there long enough. Muniz's chin is not that good. His last couple of losses have been by KO or TKO to Ikram Aliskerov and Paul fucking Craig, lol. Yeah, Muniz, he also used to have a bit of hype on him as like this grappling monster for a while there. People forget, man. He subbed Jacare Souza back in the day. This fight will just be about who has the better IQ to keep it in their wheelhouse and fight their style of fight. For me, the ease of which Shahbazyan has been taken down and held down lately could be the deciding factor. I can see Muniz not having a bar of the striking here, just using his big, heavy frame to get in close and shoot for double legs all night long. I'm nervous that Edmund will land a big knee or an uppercut if he reads the takedown right, though, and that could be all that's needed to dispatch of Andre Muniz here. But I'm going to have faith in Muniz. If he loses this one, he's going to get cut. I think he'll be desperate to win. He hasn't had his hand raised since 2023, so look, anything could happen in this fight. I think Edmund is due to lose again, but he's done well against big, blocky, tank wrestling type of dudes. Like his last couple of wins are Dylan Budka and Andre Petroski. I don't think either of those two are as good as Andre Muniz, but I don't know. I could also be overrating Muniz here. It's a close fight. I wouldn't be surprised either way. It's either going to be Edmund Shahbazyan by KO or Muniz by submission. Let's flip a coin. I reckon we're going to flip a coin for this one. I'm going to let one of these loose per card and we'll see how my luck pans out. So, yeah, heads is going to be Edmund Shahbazyan by knee up the middle. And tails is Andre Muniz by like a fluky, like late rounds rear naked choke. So, coin flip it is. Here we go. All right, we're going with heads. We're going with Edmund Shahbazyan by KO. Oh, that's not where I was leaning initially, but there we go. So locking in Edmund Shahbazyan there by TKO round 1 or 2. Okay, coin flip has spoken. Next fight, Ottavio Gautier versus Aussie Diaz at middleweight. This is not a coin flip fight, this one, boys. Aussie Diaz, he's made a career out of losing to guys with big punching power and speed. Ming Yang Zhang sparked him out in round 1 not that long ago. Joe Pyfer slept him with a nasty fadeaway left hook, and Aussie was open for that shot all night, and in every fight I've seen openings for Aussie to get chinned. And Ottavio Gautier's hands are nasty. All that he does, he's made a career out of just flatlining bums. He flatlined Jose Medina, Robert Valentin. These guys are basically on the level of Aussie Diaz. Gautier lands big shots on the feet, and his finishing instincts are just pretty crazy and insane. When he has you rocked, he just fucks you up. So we know that Aussie Diaz can be rocked easily. I don't see him surviving a flurry from Ottavio Gautier once he's been smacked in the mouth by a fucking Ford Escort. I'm locking this one in. Has to be a lock of the week, this one. Ottavio Gautier by round 1 or 2 TKO. If Aussie Diaz wins this fight, I will eat my hat. Let's keep going to the main card now. The opening fight is Abus Magomedov versus Joe Bodybags Pyfer. Middleweight scrap this one. It's a well-matched fight, this one. Both of these guys have proven that they are above the shit kickers at middleweight, and they're fighting for a spot on the edge of these rankings. It wouldn't surprise me if the winner of this fight does actually take the number 15 spot in the rankings, and he'll probably push out either Roman Kopylov or Marvin Vettori, who are on the cusp there as well. Probably Marvin Vettori will be the first one to go. Definitely for the number 15 spot if Joe Pyfer wins. I don't know if they'll push Abus into there. He's maybe got another 1 or 2 to win before he gets ranked. So Abus took his couple of L's to Strickland and Bohalio. Those guys, though, we know are elite and both have been in and around the top 5 for a while. Abus isn't at that top 5 level, but he is a tough out for anyone in the middleweight division. He's had a bit of Dana White privilege in his last couple of fights, though. He had a win over Wally Alves, then Bruno Ferreira, and then Michel Pereira. Pyfer, on the other hand, he's looked good since he got fraud checked by old crafty man Jack Hermanson. Since then, he knocked out Marc-Andre Barriol and beat Kelvin Gastelum by decision as well. Not the craziest wins in the world, but he's back in the back-to-back win column, and he's moving his way back up the rankings here. I think if Pyfer can handle KG, who we just saw get a crafty win over Dustin Stoltzfus, if Pyfer can handle Kelvin Gastelum, he'll have what it takes, what he needs to beat Abus, I reckon. Although Abus did sleep Dustin Stoltzfus with a head kick, with a front kick, I reckon, in like 20 seconds. That's an interesting little wrinkle there, but, that's MMA math. Look, I think Abbas is good everywhere, but not really great anywhere. And I think Pyfer will have a clear striking and power advantage here. Pyfer's grappling is actually underrated too. He's been doing a fair bit of competitive grappling at Fury Pro, and he's winning all of his matches there. He beat Meerschaert by KO in the UFC and then beat him in grappling a month later. And then he choked out Abdul Razak Al Hassan in the UFC as well. So don't sleep on Joe Pyfer's jiu-jitsu here either. I think Joe Pyfer is well-rounded and sharp enough to take care of Abbas wherever this fight goes. Abbas will need to out-volume him or take him to the later rounds in deep waters, but we know that's not Abbas's style. His gas tank's definitely still questionable. We saw against Michel Pereira, which was a pretty slow-paced fight, and he gassed out bad against Strickland before he got finished. I can't really see a logical reason to pick Abbas here. I think Pyfer will probably put a clinic and maybe even get him out of there. Don't sleep on a club and sub by Joe Pyfer. I'm going to pick Joe Pyfer by round 1 or 2 submission, but the TKO is pretty live here as well. Pyfer can even win a decision here too, possibly. Give me Joe Pyfer, money line, I reckon. He gets this one done. This is a confident pick, this one. Moving on to the next fight, Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zalal at featherweight. Here we have almost 41-year-old Josh Emmett taking on 29-year-old Youssef Zalal. We've got a lot of money coming in on Zalal. 83% of people are picking him on Tapology. Zalal's on a 9-fight win streak, and the last 4 of those are actually in the UFC during this second run he's having here. He's coming off UFC wins over Billy Quarantillo, Jarno Aarons, Jack Shaw, and Calvin Kattar. Zalal has also never been chinned. He's never lost by KO, and that is a very strong and telling stat for him this fight, I reckon. Emmett, he's the power puncher. He's famed and feared in the UFC for his dynamite right overhand, and that's put, many a man to sleep. Emmett, though, he is in the twilight stages of his UFC career. His record's been very patchy lately, but you have to respect who he's been fighting. His last 3 losses have come to Lerone Murphy, Ilia Topuria, and Yair Rodriguez. He's only had the 1 win in the last 3 years. That was that devastating decapitation of Bryce Mitchell, where we saw his soul almost leave his body and he needed to be almost revived by the Holy Spirit. Look, I like Emmett and I would love to see him chase down this little rat Youssef Zalal and knock his block off, but I've got to think logically about this one. We have Josh Emmett, an aging featherweight, a relic of a previous era of the division. He's lost for the interim title already. He's a one-trick pony. He relies on his overhand to get his opponents out of there. The guys he's slept aren't exactly known for their chins. I think Bryce Mitchell, Michael Johnson, those type of guys. And here he is fighting against a younger, faster, more elusive guy in Zalal who's never been chinned and whose fighting style is kind of an anti-chinning style. He coasts around the outside of the cage, avoiding damage, looking for an opportunity for a takedown, and then he uses his long limbs and his admittedly nasty jiu-jitsu game. Zalal's got some pretty savage submissions lately. He got a big arm triangle over Jack Shaw and a really filthy standing rear naked choke over Jarno Aarons. He also had 4 submissions in a row before he fought Calvin Kattar, which was, a boring stand-up fight, but so are all of Kattar's fights. Can't just blame Youssef Zalal for that. I actually think Zalal's pretty entertaining. I can see Zalal staying safe, being faster and smarter than Josh Emmett. I can't really see Josh Emmett landing a big KO blow here. It'll be a matter of time before he overextends, as he gets a bit more desperate towards the end of the fight when he knows he's losing. He'll overextend looking for a big shot or like a spinning elbow or something. And I reckon Zalal's going to be crafty and fast, speedy enough to get in on the takedown. I think 1 takedown is all he needs here. Emmett's submission defense is not very good. He got easily subbed by Yair Rodriguez off his back in their interim title fight. You also got to factor in that, the Ilia Topuria beating that Josh Emmett took was life-changing, career-altering damage. Even though he's had a win since then and he went the distance with Lerone Murphy, I reckon he won't want to take too much more damage here. He'll tap at the first sign of adversity. He did tap pretty early against Yair Rodriguez. Look, respect to Josh Emmett. I think his time in the UFC is sort of past. I can't see him beating Youssef Zalal here. He's always got a puncher's chance, but, styles make fights, and I don't think Zalal's going to be putting himself in a position to be at risk of taking an overhand. He won't be going forward into the fire or in the phone booth with Josh Emmett. He'll be staying at range, looking, crafty and patient, and then patiently getting his moment that he's been waiting for. So, yeah, I'll go with Zalal by submission. He might make it a snoozy distance striking affair, but I think he wins this one comfortably. I'll go Zalal by submission or decision. I'll probably be using the double chance on that one. Next up, oh boy, it's Jiří Procházka versus Khalil Rountree Jr. at light heavyweight. This one's got me hyped up, boys. We've got some real-life samurai type shit here. This one, I reckon, will either be over in an absolute flash or be a nasty, bloody war. I'm predicting the former on this one. I think it's going to be over somewhat quickly, this. I think both of these guys have got fight-ending power, and the defense isn't exactly impenetrable on either side here. I can definitely see Khalil giving Jiří problems, though. Jiří is a fucking bad man, and he looked insane against Rakic and Hill. So if the new and improved Jiří shows up with head movement, patience and a bit of a calmer style, he's going to be very hard to beat. But we know that Jiří can be there to hit, and his style is sometimes to eat shots, to land shots. That's what got him in, big trouble against Alex Pereira, who was just sharper and way more precise with his shots, and obviously very impactful power too. Alex Pereira, though, is the only guy to really beat Jiří in the past 10 years, and he did it twice, making it look somewhat easy. So maybe just Alex is his kryptonite, but Alex Pereira and Khalil Rountree Jr. are not the same. Look, I like how active both of these guys have been. Khalil's fought 2 or 3 times a year for the last few years. He's well conditioned and he's always down to scrap. Everyone was very impressed by his performance against Pereira, even though he inevitably got hunted down and preyed on in that fight by Alex. He gave Alex a lot of problems in round 1 and 2. This is a 3-round fight, and we know that Jiří is vulnerable to accurate shot making. This is why Khalil is somewhat of a dangerous proposition for Jiří, because Khalil is patient and he throws a lot of his shots at 60 to 70% power, and those shots will add up on Jiří if he keeps eating them as he crashes in. My take on this fight is this. Khalil is a very technical, orthodox fighter. He thrives when he's facing another technical guy who wants to kickbox with him in the traditional style. He's great at winning the outside foot battle, chipping away with calf kicks and, landed nice-looking jabs that add up over time. The problem for Khalil here, though, is he's not facing an orthodox, prim and proper kickboxer like Alex Pereira or Dustin Jacoby. Khalil lost that fight hard, by the way. If you know, you know. I think a lot of people are still gassing up Khalil for the heart that he showed in the Pereira fight, but at the end of the day, he got fucking pieced up and hunted down in that fight. Life-changing damage as well. He didn't have the power to get Pereira out of there, and so as the fight went on, Pereira was able to take his best shots and just keep marching forward. Yes, he looked good against Jamal Hill, but so did Jiří, and Jiří finished Jamal Hill. Khalil just outpointed him over 5 rounds and stayed safe. Come on, boys. Jiří's got that dog in him. He's going to be walking Khalil down, throwing at weird angles, flopping his antenna around as a distraction, and he's going to have Khalil looking tentative and worried, I reckon. You've got to have respect for the power and the explosiveness of Jiří Procházka, and I think the respect that Khalil has might be his undoing. Khalil will be wanting to be too technical and clean, and he'll get uncomfortable when Jiří crashes in like a fucking autistic Teletubby, landing elbows from places he doesn't even expect to. Khalil will be looking to defend the straight, clean shots from Jiří, but it's the wild, unorthodox shit that's going to be doing the damage. Eventually, I reckon Jiří's going to land a huge shot and Khalil will just regress to his old, fat, pathetic former self. He'll crumple up into a ball against the cage and Jiří's going to tee off on him while he covers up. The ref's going to have seen enough and we'll get another huge Jiří Procházka KO moment. I like Khalil and he's a good fighter, a good guy too, but I think this is a very bad style matchup for him here. The UFC probably wants Jiří to win as well, just so that Big Ank can have a fresh matchup if he does beat Alex Pereira. So I'm going to go with one of my favourite fighters of all time and get it done by nasty fashion, taking care of Khalil in round 1 or 2 by TKO. I am coming! And let's go for that. Rightio, boys. We have arrived at the co-main event. We have Merab, the Machine Dvalishvili, taking on Cory Sandhagen for the Bantamweight World Championship. I'm pumped for this one as well. What a great card we got here. It's been exhausting making these picks because there's just been so much to think about and so many angles to consider. This fight could just be the main event without even the Big Ank versus Alex fight, and I'd be completely okay with this card. The fact that we get these two big, important, meaningful title fights, it's awesome. What a month of UFC we have coming up here in October. Merab the Machine is taking on Cory Sandhagen in a fight that feels like it's been a long time coming. Cory Sandhagen has a lot of fans, and it's felt like he's been on the verge of a title fight for some time, but he's had momentum-stopping losses at crucial times in his career, like when he lost to Aljo after his 7-fight win streak. Then he lost to Dillashaw and Peter Yan after a couple of nasty finishes in a row that he had going over Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar. Then just when it looked like he was working his way back to the title again, he has that snoozer against Rob Font, and then he lost to cousin Umar. So it was a bit weird that he's getting this title shot now after just one win over Figgy, but I guess that's just telling of the current state of the bantamweight division. Merab's cleaned it out, and we're just working our way back through contenders to see who can stop this maniac on his goated run at bantamweight. So can Cory Sandhagen be the guy to stop Merab? I don't think so. It's somewhat of an interesting style matchup because their body shapes and fighting styles are completely different. Like these two are oil and water basically at bantamweight as far as, body types and fighting styles. But, Cory's 5 inches taller than Merab and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. But it's, even though they are totally different, weirdly they're both like equally well-rounded guys, but just in totally different ways. It's hard to even really explain it. Merab's just all pressure and cardio, and Cory's just like beakers and test tubes. I don't know why that description makes so much sense, but it's true. He's got the beakers and test tube style. He's a bit flashy. He's a very orthodox fighter, but he's got some dangerous stuff too. I've always thought that Sandhagen is a bit of a weight bully too. Like, look at the state of him. He could easily be fighting at welterweight. But anyway, Merab is on a 13-fight win streak in the UFC. He's looked unstoppable, and to be honest, he's getting better and better. His win over Umar was, I think, his most impressive win. Umar was his biggest test, and he outdogged him and broke him in that fight. The way Merab disposed of O'Malley in his most recent fight is warning signs for contenders in this division. If Merab starts adding some of that nasty jiu-jitsu to his game, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to get their hands on that belt. Merab's been insanely active as well. This is his 4th title fight since winning the belt in September 2024, which is just over 1 year ago. Look, Merab's in his prime. He's got the fight IQ and the gas tank to stay one step ahead of Sandhagen in this fight. Sandhagen's good, but his beakers and test tubes won't mean shit when Merab's just big brothering him in the grappling. I think the only way Cory wins this is by fluking a random submission like an armbar or a triangle choke, but I reckon Merab's just too nuggety and tough to even let that happen. Cory can get broken later in the fight and start being a bit hesitant. I think there's just too many constant threats coming his way from Merab. He won't be able to get his striking going. Merab's striking looks so yucky, but he just makes it work by throwing tons of volume, constantly moving and just ending his combinations with takedowns. I can see Merab crashing in, throwing overhands to distract Cory and stumbling down into his beanpole legs to get the takedown. Merab does have to watch out for the knee up the middle. Cory could be looking to land that one, the one that he landed on Frankie Edgar, but I think Merab's just going to have too much veteran savvy, too much weird bobbly head movement and too much toughness to get slept by Sandhagen by something fluky like that. I think we're going to see Merab drown him, out-grapple him, and just make him his bitch. Get on the mic, yap for 2 hours until DC just wrestles the mic away from him so they can fucking finally start the main event. Yeah, it's Merab all the way here, boys. I'm going to go as far as to say that I'm going to give you 2 locks of the week this week. I can't see this one going any other way than a Merab win. Cory's tough enough to make it the distance, I reckon, and he might even snatch a round or 2 off Merab, but I reckon Merab's going to take over this fight at some point in his usual style, like he did to Umar, and get it done by decision in a close, boring technical fight. So we're locking in 2 locks of the week this week. Also locking in Merab, probably by decision, but who knows. Merab could get it done in however he wants, I reckon. Lock of the week, Oteba Gautier and Merab Dvalishvili. And finally, we've got the big one, boys. Big Ank versus Poatan 2. The rematch, the grudge match. Poatan's revenge. It's Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira 2. I'm hyped for this one too, boys. Probably more so than the last one, I reckon. Because this is do or die for Pereira. He's not getting any younger. He's 38 going on 39, and he's had a long career too. Sadly, I don't think we're going to see too many more Alex Pereira fights in the UFC. I don't think this will be his last one either way, but it may be one of his last 2 or 3 depending on how this one goes. You got to love Poatan, man. He's one of the most hype, exciting and game-changing things to ever happen to the UFC. Just what he's been able to do in the sport over the last 4 years has been insane. 9 wins, 2 losses, 7 title fights, 9 wins with 7 of his wins coming by KO. He's a freak, and it took a freak in Magomed to get the belt off him. Different kind of freak, I will add. Pereira's like the gifted phenom kind of freak. Ankalaev's like the heels have eyes, Resident Evil kind of freak. Look, as much as we all want Alex to have a vintage performance and sleep Magomed Ankalaev with his patented left hook, we're going to have to be realistic here. Alex's skills are most likely declining. Ank's in his head, winning all the shit talk battles. You know, he's a higher level than Alex on Duolingo, and he's only getting better. Ankalaev hasn't been beaten in his past 14 fights. His only loss in the UFC comes from getting fluke submitted by Paul Craig with 1 second to go. Crazy sport sometimes, eh? And then you look at their first fight. So I went and rewatched this one. The low kicks were there from Alex in round 1, but you know, Magomed took them well and fired back with his own as well. He was given as good as he got in terms of the leg kicks. I gave round 1 to Alex. He stuffed the takedowns and he landed some more effective shots. You know, had about 15 leg kicks in that round as well. Magomed, he took some like solid damage and his calf was sore in round 1. I think maybe, you know, in this fight, Magomed might be a bit more protective of his legs. You know, he'll know that he can take Alex down, and I think he'll be more aggressive with the wrestling in this fight. Big Ank's jab was money in round 2. He out-kickboxed Pereira handedly in that round, and he rocked him bad twice, and he rocked him really badly at the end of the round. Could have finished him if there was a few more seconds in the fight. I actually forgot how good of a fight this was. There was a lot of strikes landed by both guys in those opening rounds. Definitely the first couple of rounds were fun. Then round 3, honestly, you can give Pereira round 3. He landed a couple of hooks and a few more leg kicks as well. I can see the argument for Ank, though. Like, there's a very good argument for Ankalaev to win round 3. He was backing Alex up most of the round, and he landed probably the best shot of the round as well, that good straight shot that kind of backed Alex up against the cage. This ended up being the swing round in the fight, in my opinion. In my heart, though, I think that Ankalaev won it, but live, I probably scored it for Alex, I reckon, just because I was sort of going and rooting for Alex at the time. But yeah, I think Ank did win round 3. But it was close, very close. Swing round in that fight. Then round 4, Ank just clinched him up for most of it and landed the better shots. That was an easy 10-9 for Ankalaev. Round 5, Alex actually started tagging him up and you know, got the crowd excited, and Ank got wobbled a couple of times in that round. He ended up just resorting back to the clinch, took his back, kneed the thigh, the crowd was booing. I still gave round 5 to Alex as well. So I actually scored at 48-47 for Pereira live, but in my heart of hearts, and now having watched it and analysed it, I've got it 48-47 Ankalaev, but I can definitely see an argument for Alex winning this fight. Anyway, that fight aside, I reckon Big Ank's going to get this one done in their rematch. He just looked way more versatile, composed, and aggressive in their first fight. He looked faster. He was more accurate in the striking too. And he didn't really have to even try grappling until the start of round 4, and he was still winning. And then, you know, that grappling in round 4 and 5, even though it was pathetic looking and weak, it still just proved that he has no shame. He's got the willingness to take the fight there. It is, at the end of the day, it's mixed martial arts. So I really hope Alex wins. He was actually looking pretty dangerous in the first couple of rounds, but Ank's got a solid chin as well, and he's got a good gas tank. Look, I think 90% of fans would love to see Magomed Ankalaev get slept here, and it would be great to pick it to happen, but I've done that the last few weeks, and I'm pretty desperate for a pick here. I'm desperate when I'm picking the daggies, so Alex Pereira, one of my favourite fighters of all time as well. So stoked to have Jiří and Alex on this card. But yeah, I got to go with Magomed Ankalaev. Here's my official prediction for how I think this fight's going to go. I reckon the boys are going to get scrapping. Alex is going to be a bit more aggressive and a bit more emotional. in his style, like having a bit of a point to prove. I can see Magomed Ankalaev just being his composed, emotionless, surgical self. And I think we're going to see these boys get to work early, and Ankalaev's going to seize a moment of overextended emotional striking from Alex and get him to the ground, or maybe he catches a kick or something, and from there it's just going to be one-way traffic, just a smudging from Ankalaev. He won't want to leave any doubt in this one. He'll work his way to a dominant position and just be pounding Alex out at the end of round 1 or 2, I reckon. Alex will defend well, but I reckon some of these shots will start sneaking through. Alex will get busted up and the ref will start taking a bit of a closer look. The finishing instincts from Ankalaev we've seen are good enough, and I reckon he'll empty the tank and the ref will wave it off. He'll rescue Pereira from too much damage. The Pereira fans will probably, and myself maybe, will protest a slightly early stoppage, but I can see the optics not being too good from Pereira once it does hit the mat and Ankalaev's on top of him, out-grappling him, pounding him out. So I'm going to officially predict Magomed Ankalaev to say no shama and take out Alex by TKO round 1 or 2. Sadly for all lovers of violence and exciting fights. But credit to Ankalaev. He's an exciting fighter as well when he wants to be. So Magomed Ankalaev, round 1 or 2, TKO finish. I think we'll get some respect out of this one.
Punch-ons as predicted.
All right, you bunch of degenerate, dead dingoes, dongers. Let's get into these multis. I've got a couple for you this week. Here's the safe one to start. Now, safe is an interesting word. None of this is safe. Gamble responsibly, but here's what I'm going to be having a bit of a flutter on this week. The safe multi consists of these legs. It's a 4-legger for you this week. Leg number 1 is going to be Gutiérrez and Basharat to go 3 rounds. I'm not confident in either of these dudes enough to actually put it on one of them, but I do think that they're both point style fighters, so that one's most likely going the distance. Gutiérrez, Basharat to go 3 rounds. To go the distance is the first leg of that one. Then we got big dog Ortiba Gautier to just put a working on Aussie Diaz and knock him out flatline in the first couple of minutes. Round 1 TKO is not a bad shout, that one. But I'm just going to put him on TKO. There's a chance that Aussie Diaz just stays safe and smudges him and maybe we get a decision, but I think maybe the double chance Gautier TKO decision. It won't be paying much, but I'm going to chuck that one in. Body bags Pyfer. We're going to chuck him in on a double chance to finish Magomedov, and then you got to have Merab in that safe multi. This guy's a fair lock this week, I reckon, against Cory. I'll have him by submission or decision. He has just shown that he's got that extra little bit of submission to his game now. So we're going to go with Merab, sub or decision. There's your safe multi, 4 legs. Feeling good about this one. Now, for all you blokes who are keen to just chuck the rent money in the bin, here's the sicko multi for this week. We've got Patchy mix by submission. I reckon he's going to mix it up in patches throughout that fight, and he's probably going to win that by sub. Nikolai Veretennikov, man, people are sleeping on this dude. I could be really wrong about this, and he could be an absolute can. But I don't know. I got a feeling he's got those crazy eyes. He's Ukrainian. He's fighting for his right to party. Veretennikov by TKO or decision. I'm going to be chucking in this one. Yusuf Zalal. Feeling fairly confident about this guy. I don't see Josh Emmett having the skills to beat him, so we're going to go with Yusuf Zalal, double chance, submission or decision. Jiří Procházka, got to have him in there. He's going to get a TKO, maybe a submission. That could add a few little bits of value to your multi if you add the double chance. But yeah, I feel like a finish is coming for my boy Jiří. He is coming! And let's go for that. And then Big Ank, the big dirty dog. Look at him. Got that belt around his shoulder. I reckon it's staying right there. We're going to go with Big Ank to get this one done by TKO or by finish. There's a good chance that, or by decision. There's a good chance that this one just goes in a similar way to the last fight with Ank being a little bit more decisive in the striking. I do think he's going to get a finish though. Chuck those legs into your preferred punting app and see what happens. I reckon you'll get some pretty decent odds. It's too far out from the card to get the specific lines on these, but you do a bit of experimenting and I reckon that'll be given a pretty decent little payday there. So sicko multi, there it is. Cash it in and thank me later. Rightio, quick last couple of segments here before we do the wheel. Fraud watch. It's going to have to go to Dominic Reyes this week. Man, I don't know if you can call it a fraud check, but just a It's just a legacy check, a hope check. I reckon it's a hope check, and that's his crime this week. He gave us hope. We believed in the Dominic Reyes comeback. We all wanted Dominic Reyes to win, and he just, he did what he did last weekend. It was not very impressive. Looking at him now, he's got a bit of a beer belly. He's been hanging out on the couch eating chicken wings, Buffalo Wild Wings, and that was probably my worst pick on the channel so far. So Dominic Reyes, you're going on Fraud Watch this week. And another one who absolutely cooked us last week and deserves to be named and shamed, Jim Perdios, bro. The ref who stopped the Neil Magny, Jake Matthews fight, or who officiated that one. What are you doing, bro? You're going back to the B leagues after that one. No wonder you only get the odd bloody UFC fight in Australia. You got to be decisive in these moments. And I think what happened upon rewatching that is he called it off early. Was about to wave it off, realised that the bell had gone, realised that Magny wasn't out, and kind of went, the round's over, guys. That's all I was saying. Didn't you know? Like, you guys are the dumb ones here. Anyway, we all see what you did there, Jim Perdios. You cost all of us our multis. You pilfered our paychecks there. And Jake Matthews, you're not free in this one either. You're not off the hook. You shouldn't be losing to Neil Magny as a notable welterweight contender. So Jim Perdios, Jake Matthews, both of these guys murdered my multis last week. Everything else was good. I probably would have had a cash out before the Dom Reyes fight too, so had a couple of good ones cooking there. And Neil Magny, he brought it all undone. Well, Jim Perdios brought it all undone. So I'll be a bit hesitant next time this guy's reffing a fight too. Multi-murderer Jim Perdios. Okay, it is time for the Wheel of Doom. Or as it is now affectionately known, the Cedricus Dumas Nutsack Memorial Punch-Ons Wheel of Doom. Didn't have much of success for the wheel last week. We spun up a corner stoppage. We put it on to Rodolfo Bellato getting whooped up, and respect to Bellato, he actually had a bit of dog in that fight, and it didn't happen. So no hit from the wheel last week, but come on, I'm feeling a big spin this week. Here we go. Just keep spinning, just keep spinning. All right, we've got a 10-8 by the look of things. So we're looking for a fight that's 100% going to have a 10-8 in it. So we're looking for a really violent fight that actually goes past one round. So I don't think we can give it to Atiba Gautier. He's just going to finish him in round one, I reckon. Who else is going to put a bit of a working on their opponent, but they'll stay in it? Oh, man, maybe Punahele Soriano could get one in the first round before he gets finished. Vanderford, he could smudge Brahimaj. There's a few good contenders this week. I don't see Merab getting a 10-8. Pyfer could get one. Zalal could get one. Maybe Big Ank. You know what? I'm going to go down the card. We're going to go with Austin Vanderford. I reckon Austin Vanderford is going to have a really strong showing in round one where he just physically dominates Ramiz Brahimaj, has him in lots of terrible positions, maybe takes his back, but Brahimaj stays in there for round one, but it's a clear 10-8 before he gets finished in round 2 or 3. So Wheel of Doom is locking in a 10-8 guaranteed for Austin Vanderford this week. The wheel, once again, has spoken. That's going to do it this week, boys, for the UFC Ankalaev versus Pereira 2 predictions. Another big card. Cannot wait to see how these results go. You know that we're cracking a couple of these multis this week. We're getting the dog of the week. We're getting the lock. It's going to be another good punch-ons card. This is the only way we know how to do it now. 80% plus predictions. We're going to stay there for the rest of eternity. So I hope you enjoyed all the content this week. Don't forget to like the video. I put a lot of work into it. Subscribe to the channel. We want to try and build up a bit of a community here. Just Aussie legends who enjoy the fights and want to talk about them. So get on that Punch-Ons MMA. Give us a follow on Instagram at Punch-Ons MMA. I'll catch you boys on the next one. Hope you enjoyed the fights. I'll see you for a couple more videos before the end of the week. UFC 320. Can't wait for it. Let's punch on. You.